Alright, let's see how this works. It always takes me a moment to get started. I don't know exactly when that'll catch up. And I think we're good. Let me close you. Okay. So, first off, welcome everybody. And it's good to be back. Okay, today, the topic I've been thinking about that I wanted to talk about, probably should have done that before. The topic that I want to talk about was insurance, and exactly what it is, because we talk about it a lot. There's a lot of different types of insurances that we deal with, a lot of different types of insurances that we pay for, but we don't always think about what they are, and each of them they're kind of made as different beasts, and the whole purpose should be the same. They should be pretty much the same thing, but they're not. So what insurance is, and the purpose behind insurance and where it got started was, you have, and I don't know the actual total history of it, but a good way to conceptualize it is you think of like a trading company who has boats, right? And they have these boats that go and transport goods, and their job is to ship goods from one place to another. Well, in the process of shipping goods, there is a chance that those boats are lost at sea. Those boats can get destroyed, there's storms, things can happen. And so what the trading guilds would do, and again, I don't know, I wouldn't say that I'm an expert on the history of this, but what they do is they would get together and they would insure each other. So they all put a little bit of their profits into a fund or into a organization, an insurance, and when somebody loses a boat, then they use that to replace the losses. So what insurance, the purpose of insurance is, it's for the mitigation of risk. So mitigation means transferring it, like to take care of risk. And so on a personal level, you think of like the different insurances that we pay for. We pay for car insurance, we pay for health insurance, we pay for home insurance, we pay for renter's insurance, we pay for you can get insurance on your things that you buy. You can get insurance on your luggage. You can get insurance on anything. And what happens is that insurance is used for taking the risk of losing something, whether that's health, whether that's in a car accident, whatever it is, the risk of danger, and trying to pay a little bit now. And everybody pitches in a little bit, and then that group together is used to pay for the when something catastrophic happens. So what that means is, like, when you pay for insurance, what you're doing is you're betting against yourself. You're saying, okay, is this going to be a problem? And if it is a problem, how am I going to handle it? And you're paying for insurance to bet against yourself, to say, okay, I think that I'm going to get into a car accident, which whether you do or you don't, that you need to pay for it, because if you do get into a car accident, okay, the cost of the car is a potential cost. Okay, the car, depending on what kind of car you've got a beater, it's a couple $100 to $50,000 if you're getting expensive cars or whatever, I don't know. But the cost of the car is one thing, but not only do you have to insure the cost of that car, you have to insure, what if you go to the hospital? You have to pay for your hospital fees. What if you put somebody else in the hospital? The standard liability that's required for all insured drivers is part of that is for the cost of others. This is stuff that you learn as you go into like driver's ed and stuff like that. I mean, we had an insurance guy come and explain to us the different types of insurance and what they were for and why you get them. And the whole purpose behind insurance is to mitigate risk. Now, one of the sad things that has happened, especially in our country, is insurance. The whole purpose has been transformed, and it's become this this way of extracting money. So you hear people talk about like a single payer system for healthcare. That would mean like the government pays for everything. The government would be that single payer, and it pays for all healthcare, and then we just get taxed. That's a really bad thing. And the bad thing is we get taxed, and we're no longer in the business of mitigating risk. Then we're in the business of being it's just a tax. It becomes a tax, and there are countries that swear by it, that like it, and there are countries that have used like I'm thinking of England right now. I've got a few friends that live in England and stuff, and they absolutely love their healthcare system because they never have to pay anything for it, but they're constantly paying for it through their taxes. It is getting paid for, and it's just they don't see it up front, and so they don't think about it. The thing that gets really frustrating though is we don't really understand what that means. Like the system has gotten very convoluted. If you go to a doctor, you have to look for a doctor who will tell you, okay, an X-ray is going to cost this much, stitches are going to cost this much, this type of operation is going to cost this much. There's a new type of physician that is coming. I should have looked this one up before. I can't remember the name of it, but there are doctors. There's a movement of doctors who are going away from the insurance model. The problem is you have insurance companies working with doctors, right? The insurance company charges the doctor, and then the insurance company charges the end user, the person who's getting the service. The person paying for insurance, for health insurance, they're paying for it, whether usually their company that they work for is paying for a vast majority of it, and then they pay for the rest. But it's getting paid for, and they're not actually the person whose vested interest is the user, the person who's trying to mitigate that risk. They don't really have the visibility of seeing what they're paying for. So they just pay for insurance and then hope that it gets covered and then pay their deductible, you know? And as a population, we've been pushed into this idea of living, of needing this insurance, and this health insurance is life or death, and that's not the case at all. Insurance, the purpose of insurance again is to mitigate risk. So in getting insurance, you're no longer trying to save for a rainy day, where if somebody gets cancer that's in the family, okay, we've got this insurance that's going to help us out. It's no longer a group of people putting their money together, but it's become a tax. It's the government has mandated the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare. It is a tax, and it's a legal tax, which is outrageous. It's completely outrageous. We're being forced to purchase a product, which is exactly in line with the whole, taxation without representation thing that caused the revolution. The English government had gone rampant on the taxation that they were putting on the colonies. But if those colonies viewed our tax system now, they would have had revolutions years ago because of the way that we're being taxed, and the lack of clarity, the convolution, the way that it's used to, the tax code is used as a weapon. It really is. You have big businesses who push for their individual wants or their individual desires. Then you have lobbyists. You have all these different groups pushing for these niches and these write-ins for one thing or another. And because you have that, it makes the regular person who is just a regular citizen, they're the ones who, if they're not an expert in the tax code, they're missing out. And that's they either have to hire experts, or they just miss out, and they get taxed. And then on top of that, we're pushing so much of the taxes back through rebates and stuff like that, that you have people who just want their check, you know, they just want their money to come back, and it's very convoluted. And once you get taxes involved with insurance, it's just another form of, it's another weapon that's used against the population in order to keep them in check, and also to milk out as much resources from the general population as possible. And it's just really frustrating to see. So I guess getting back to the whole purpose of insurance, if you don't have life insurance, and you do get, if you don't have, not life insurance, health insurance, and those are two different things, which, I mean, different ways to spend money. But health insurance, if you don't have it, and you get some terrible life-threatening disease or something like that, cancer or something like that, you are left at the mercy of what you can afford for healthcare, which is, people say, oh, that's terrible and that's atrocious and that's barbaric and blah, blah, blah. This is the 21st century and whatever self-righteous thing people say. But when it comes down to it, what's going to happen? If somebody gets sick and they die, then they die. And then life, the world moves on. We all, I mean, it's up to us to be in charge of our own lives. That's one of the big things that we need. If we want safety, then we have to give up freedom. If we want freedom, that comes with responsibility, and we're responsible for our own lives, and that includes if we want to have that mitigation of risk, then that's something that we decide to pay for. Now, one of the things that's really frustrating now is because the system has gotten so enshrined in mystery. If you don't have the right knowledge, if you don't have the right, as far as the insurance companies go, so the way that they decide how much to charge for insurance is they use these actuaries an actuary is a person who does these advanced statistics to see, okay, if you have this many people having this problem, like what are the chances of this being a problem, so that they can kind of see what point it pays for itself, what point you can charge somebody and still make money as a company, and then offer to enough people the things that you're going to have to pay for. One of the sad things is, because people view insurance as just something they're paying for and they don't think of it as a mitigation of risk, when you get things that are like prescriptions that come, or you have just regular checkups, or things that you just ways to take care of yourself, you get this attitude of, well, I'm paying for it, so let's get insurance to pay for it. And so the insurance starts paying for prescriptions, and the insurance starts paying for doctor's visits, and the insurance starts paying for a lot of little things that aren't really risky. There are things that you just do, and because you're paying for it as like the end user, you're thinking, well, I'm paying for it, and you're not thinking, I'm paying for the mitigation of risk. If you're paying for the mitigation of risk, then you really only want to rely on that fund of money that's being accumulated in a catastrophe, and you want to pay for as much as you can by yourself, because if you do that, then when the catastrophe comes, you're paying little amounts on a regular basis, and then you can yield that fund. But if everybody's paying for every doctor's visit and every prescription and every little thing, then that fund not only shrinks, but you as an individual have to pay more each month, and so you have to pay more, and so you feel entitled to more. So it's like, well, I'm paying for it. Well, I'm paying for it, and there's a sense that, I mean, that does make sense, but it's lost the point of, oh, I'm paying for the mitigation of risk, and the mitigation of risk, I only really care about these catastrophes. Somebody gets in a car accident and they have to have heart surgery, or I don't know, whatever it is. You only really care about the catastrophes, but yet because everybody pays for all of the little things, not only is the fund smaller that you're using to mitigate that risk, but also the payments that you make monthly are more, because it's just, you have to put more in. And for the company to make money, they have to charge more. And on top of that, you also have the point where it's not transparent. So the insurance company will talk to the doctors, and then the insurance company will talk to you, but you don't actually see from the doctors the pricing. Like, it's just you can't shop around, and doctors have less of an incentive to be transparent with their prices, because if the insurance is paying for it anyways, you don't want this patient to go somewhere else, so you just treat them without any negotiation or any transparency at the upfront. And as a end user, as like the person going to the doctor, you go to the doctor and you don't know what it's going to cost. You just kind of go. You just, well, I've got insurance, okay. And so it's one of those things that, because we don't think about it the way that it is, it has become something that it's not meant to be. And that's just one of the frustrating things that we have in the society right now, is the taxing system is very convoluted, and with that, the insurance system is very convoluted. And because those things are not clear and not concise, if you're not an expert on the field, you're kind of left in the dark, and you kind of just hope that you're not getting screwed. And nobody likes to be a sucker, but we're all suckers for taking part in the system. And that's just one of those things that you got to pick and choose your battles. But when it all comes down to it, responsibility is the only real solution. We have to be responsible for ourselves and not rely on everything else and everyone else, and these systems that are fragile, these systems that can break easy. Other than that, you guys have a great day. Rock the party.